Okay.
our stuff.
Now we're getting into, oh, well, we kind of got into it a little bit with Humor and Harmony. So we're talking about Humor and Harmony. You were talking about how you love Shreveport. I was talking about how you're a good sport with it. And now we go back to when you were young and growing up and how it took, and I wasn't here then, but when I came 13 years ago, it was very vibrant.
Absolutely.
I went to the hotel, casinos on the weekend, and then you'd see not as much as Humor and Harmony, but it was like a vibe.
Yes, for sure. At Texas Street,
Yes.
under the bridge, you name it, back in the day. I actually have a photo in my place here in Shreveport of Texas Street with thousands and thousands of pictures on it. And that picture is from the 90s, and people just can't believe it because we've gone so far away from that type of vibrancy down there. So it was very reminiscent for me to see it and just be like, okay, we can capture this energy again.
How did you try to do that as mayor?
So, I mean, the part that my administration plays in this story, and I'm funny, I picked this suit jacket because I was wearing this suit when I did the announcement when we purchased Millennium Studios. And it was a hard fought fight with City Council, finding the dollars for it, but we saw the vision for it. We were in communication with Orville Hall as well. You know, he was telling us, he was naming all the people that he was connected to. You know, he was bringing them to my office. We were talking about it. We were constantly texting. So Orville Hall was a component of it, and the macro, just the market. Millennium Studios is such a unique piece of property for filming. So we knew that, you know, with the film tax credits, if we had that property, we had some interest already that this could be massive. So we made that investment. And even though my administration didn't get to see it, like, you know, Mayor Arsenault he's taking that ball and he's running with it. And we're seeing some powerful stuff with how he's working with 50 Cent and how the City Council is extremely cooperative now because, you know, they see that vision. But Tabitha Taylor was a great, you know, proponent of this when I brought it to council. She was one of the 4 that voted. I wish I got a unanimous vote. But yeah, just, you know, it's awesome to see the role that we played and now how things are continuing to go forward.
What was the concern with the people who didn't vote back then?
They said the city, we had too many buildings. That was an argument that I heard from council members. You already have too many buildings. You know, how are we going to maintain this building? How are we going to pay for this? You know, we need to be focused on public safety. The typical quips you hear from, you know, people that don't want to vote for something. But we saw it. We saw it very clearly. Like I said, we were in constant communications with industry insiders who knew the value of that property and what it could be for the city. And you know me, I was extremely aggressive as a mayor. I constantly was thinking I probably was thinking too much forward on what our city could be as well. So, you know, I wanted to make it happen.
I was going to say, so if it wasn't successful when you were there, say it wasn't and it didn't pass, we may not be having Humor and Harmony.
Yeah, but I would think so, but I don't want anybody to think, oh, you know, Mayor Perkins has said, had it not been for him, this wouldn't have happened. Had it not been for a lot of people, this wouldn't have happened. Had it not been for our state legislator to be able to have the vision to give us those tax credits and make sure they were equitably split between New Orleans and Shreveport, had it not been for, you know, Mayor Glover and his role with really optimizing the film industry when it came here. So no, that was my part of the story. You know, it's going to continue to move forward, but everybody plays a role with this. And it's something that I do want to say. Everybody's talking about the celebrities that were in Shreveport. The thing that I'm fixated and fascinated about was how Shreveport came together. Those factions that I had to fight with, they weren't factions while we were having Humor and Harmony. And that's the most beautiful part of the weekend, and that's the true potential that we have going forward.
You know, we talked about crime, you know, it's been talked about since I've been here, right? We talked about it during your administration. We talked about it in Arsenault's administration and Ali's administration. But we didn't have one homicide in those 4 days. As a former mayor, what contributes to not having that?
You remember when we had Bayou Classic here? The same thing happened. We didn't have one homicide over the stretch of Bayou Classic. As soon as all the events for Bayou Classic ended, we had one like that evening, but everything was over already. If you have things to do in the city, if people are engaged, if people are feeling optimistic about what's going on in the city, you know, there's a big police officer presence too, we're going to see safer days and safer nights. So you can't just focus on, oh, we need to put more police officers out and just the block and tackling of crime. You have to focus on being offensive and making things happen. And that too is what reduces crime in the community. And that's what, you know, the Arsenault administration got to enjoy over that 4-day weekend. I'm sure he was happy not to get any calls, just like I was on those big weekends.
Have you had a chance to speak with him? Or
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so I talk to him. We see each other on airplanes most of the time, flying back back into Shreveport or flying out of Shreveport. And I still serve on the state Southern Rail Commission as well. So I talked to him about the rail coming through Shreveport. So yeah, I get to talk to Mayor Arsenault pretty often.
So, like a lot of times when you look at races, even the presidential race, we see the outside, like, oh, it can get nasty.
Yeah.
But once you're past that, I mean, it seems like you guys have.
We didn't even get nasty with each other during the race. That's just never, that's just not my type of thing. Tom's always been a good person that I knew cared about Shreveport. We disagree about a lot of things, but we both care about Shreveport, and that's the common ground that we often talk on. And we work together on. So no, I'm not interested in that at all.
So Orville, you knew Orville back when he was trying to bring this, right?
Oh yeah.
How do you sell it? My question still is, and I think Bubba too, anybody in this area that really isn't on the inside of it, why did 50 pick Shreveport?
So, I mean, I have some theories, but I can't speak to that. I'll let 50 explain all of his motivations, but I will say Orville had this vision for a very long time. People in Shreveport didn't know the gem that we had because he was so connected throughout the music industry. There was a massive article written about him in the Rolling Stones and this beat that he had done. And I was like, oh my, like this guy is a very legit guy. So we just stayed in communication. And he was saying 50's interested, 50's interested. 50, he didn't come to Shreveport until after I was out of the mayor's office. But again, unique piece of property. He can do a lot down here. He knows that this is something that I can transform. It's not something that I can be a part of. If 50 Cent goes to Atlanta, he's going to be a part of the entertainment industry. If he goes back to New York, his home, he's going to be a part of the entertainment industry. Coming to Shreveport, he can essentially build an entertainment industry where he's the primary motivator and pusher behind it. And you're going to need to have a team effort. The citizens are going to have to get involved. The administration is going to have to be involved. And I think he saw, okay, I can transform this, and I have great team players. And I think that's the reason why Shreveport is in the spot that we're in now.
Okay, so let's take 50 out of it and any other celebrity that has the money to move here. Yeah. How hard is it to sell Shreveport as a mayor, as me, when I'm trying to get my cousins to come here and they're like, "Are we going to New Orleans? We're going to where?"
It's it was very difficult to sell Shreveport. I'll be honest. We have been off the map for a while. You talked about the vibrancy and the things of when I was growing up. We had been off the map for a while. Me being so young and me and having some of the connections that I did, I was able to have meetings with the CEO of AT&T and a lot of Fortune 100 CEOs to try to get jobs to our community. I was able to, coordinate to make sure Bayou Classic came up here with our state legislator. So it is a very hard thing to do, but it is actually so much easier if you have the people behind you. Elected officials, the business community, elected officials at the local, state level, at the federal level, we can really get things done. But if you're rowing by yourself, it is very, very hard. And I will admit, sometimes it felt like I was rowing by myself. I'm not sure if people kind of saw the vision that I was on, that I had. But when I had my team beside me, this community beside me, it didn't feel so hard.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily for the piece, but I thought like so many times when you were going through things like, gosh, she's so young. Like this is, not young like that, but I'm saying,
no, you're right.
You had the weight of the city and making hard decisions, and then nasty people saying nasty things if it didn't go their way. And I thought, man, I wouldn't want that job. My gosh.
I spoke at the Republican luncheon once when I was here. They invited me out, so I was speaking about the city. And, I made a joke when I started talking. I said, guys, I've been to Iraq, deployments to Afghanistan, grew up here in Cedar Grove, went through law school, very, very hard law school. And I always ask myself the question, like, what is God preparing me for? And now I'm the mayor of Shreveport, and I see what he's preparing me for, you know what I mean? Like, he put me through all of those trying times so that I could withstand what was going on while I was the mayor. And it was very hard. I tell people it was the most rewarding job I've ever had, but it was the hardest job I've ever had. So yeah, people are gonna be tough. People are tough on elected officials. People are tough on young people. People are tough on young African-American men. That was something that I tried to get across, but I was built for it, and I'm happy with the way things went. I'm happy with the direction of the city right now, and just proud to be a Shreveporter. I am, very much so.
Where do we go from here? What do you want to see?
Okay, I want to see more of what we saw Humor and Harmony weekend, and again, not the celebrity component, but the cohesion, the unity component of it. And I promise you, Shreveport, if we can do that, we will go well beyond what anybody can envision, even what I've envisioned. You know, I'm a man of faith. I think God will be behind us once he sees that we can actually pull together on a shared vision and push this community forward.
Oh, can I ask about Cross Bayou?
Yeah.
I'm a little confused because during the whole thing, it was almost like this, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
did you bring Cross Bayou for? Okay.
No, that was before my administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ollie or Cedric?
That was in the Ollie administration.
Okay. So it didn't pass with her, right? Did you bring it back up or no?
No, we didn't bring it back up. Council members were discussing bringing it back up, and we were actually in communication with developers to bring it back up in the second term. So we want to. I mean, it's great land. It's something else that we can build upon. But unfortunately, it failed in the Tyler administration. We couldn't get it out in my administration. But, you know, hopefully one day we see it.
So what do we want to see with that? I don't even know where. I kind of know where the land is by looking at the drone.
Yeah.
But when we say Cross Bayou, all I think is water. Is it land out there?
It is land out there, yeah, and it's land on the water, and you know how valuable that is. During the Ollie administration, we had an opportunity to have an NBA G League team here. Developers were here. They were going to invest $200+ million of private capital into the city. That's not taxpayers' dollars, private capital. Obviously, some taxpayers' dollars can be on top of that. We engaged developers to do a similar thing. We were talking to the Saints. I don't know if you remember me going down and talking to Ms. Benson pretty often, talking to the Saints, talking to our state legislators to hopefully at least get their like summer, spring practices here in Shreveport. So we were looking to do something in entertainment, sports, entertainment in that area because the place is beautiful. I mean, under the bridge is a cool spot because it's close to the casinos, but you know, if you go out there and you look at where the water is and you just imagine restaurants and a sports facility and things like that, it could be a huge asset for our city.
But if they were going to pay everything and the city didn't have to, kind of like 50, why didn't it pass?
I can't speak for a previous administration, but I will say, talking about the unity of our community, I have to be honest and talk about the disunity of our community. And sometimes if certain people, whether they be in the business community or they have a financial interest in things, if they aren't a part of it, then they get upset. They put out rumors into the community. You're in communications. You know how much misinformation thrives in this environment. And unfortunately, a lot of very good things for our community has been completely wiped away because of misinformation and our citizens not understanding this will work in your interest.
Can Cross Bayou still happen?
I hope so. I'm not sure what Mayor Arsenault is doing. If he wants to talk to me about it, I'd be happy to, talk to him about, introduce him to the developers we talk to, share my vision, work with him on a vision. So I hope that it happens, but I'm not sure what the administration is doing right now.
Are you done with anything as an elected official, or will we see you run again?
I will say this, again, I am a man of faith, and I learned a long time ago never to say never, because God has a certain plan for me, and I'm just living out his vision. So I have no idea, but I'm not thinking about it right now at all.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was telling my husband, go pick up my daughter because she's at cheer.
Okay. Look at you. You sacrificed so much for me today. I appreciate you, Dom.
I did what now?
Sacrificed to get here.
Oh,
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, she's at cheer. She normally doesn't stay this late, but
okay.
He's like, you need me to go to the city? You got any questions?
Yeah, is there a start date when y'all started talking to Orville?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
I want to be accurate because I have text messages, so I want to make sure that I'm. But we were talking to Orville easily in 2019, but about 50 Cent. I'm going to give you an exact date that Orville texted me about 50 Cent. And he was the first person to text me once we made that Millennium purchase as well.
Wow.
I think he texted me before the actual purchase and said, I hear you're about to buy Millennium Studios.
Gosh, he was like,
I know, he was on it. Yeah, he was on it.
And he's moved down here 6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
When you were talking to him, so he saw.
Yeah, our text messages go back to 2019, July 2019. And he told me about 50 Cent. He sent me a picture of 50 in June. And then I said, hey, let's make it happen shortly thereafter. So we were talking in June of 2021 about 50 Cent.
Wow. 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But you were talking way before that, right?
Yeah, me and Orville were talking. Like I said, I wanted to meet him because I read about him in this Rolling Stone article.
Did you know who I don't know who
people didn't know who, but I read about him in a Rolling Stone article, and he said he lived in Shreveport, talked about it. Yeah.
Really?
So, I had heard about him, because some friends are, the Holden family. So I heard about him. So I went to meet him, and I'm like, hey, man, you have a lot of connections. Like, what do you want to do? And he had such a vision for this place.
Wow.
And I was like, well, let's make it happen. However my administration can help, let's make this happen.
Yeah. Wow.
And where I was going with a start date, besides we can say July 2021, is these things don't happen overnight.
They don't. They don't. Very long process. You got to make sure the money is there, for whatever public dollars are going to be contributed. You have to make sure that you have the investors in place. You have to make sure that you have the city council and the leadership in place, whether there's zoning permits that need to happen, you name it. So no, these things are not going to happen overnight. You got to have the property. You got to have some of the macro stuff, state tax credits, state movie credits in place. So no, this story, you can really push this story back, over a decade when we actually had a booming movie industry here in Shreveport. You can push the story all the way back there if you want to. So, there's an element of, there's a lesson in patience here as well. And not to be down when things don't happen overnight for citizens, or not to be down when the movie industry moves away for a couple of years, but hold on to hope, continue to believe in your city, continue to trust and invest in your city.
When it's Millennium?
Millennium.
When Millennium was empty before 50, did you ever go in there? What did it look like?
Yeah, I did go in there quite a bit. It was privately held, and nothing was happening there for a really long time.
Nobody was in there?
It was very small leases. They would just maintain the property. But yeah, nothing was happening in there. Somebody else that I have to mention in this story is Bonnie Moore as well. Ms. Bonnie Moore played a huge role in the due diligence behind this. When I was talking to her about, hey, we need this facility, she was like, I already have the perfect place. So Bonnie had saw something in that facility early on as well and set the city up to be in a position to acquire that property as soon as it was available, and acquire it for an extremely competitive price, a very competitive price. Probably, some people probably would have paid 5 to 10 times more for it.
Who owned it?
I forget.
Is it like a person or a company?
It was a person. It was an actual person that owned it, because I remember talking to his personal CFO when we were working with the details on costs.
It wasn't the Moonbot guy.
No, it's not the Moonbot guy.
He just had.
He had a lease. He had a lease.
Oh, okay. Because when I first came here, it was like Moonbot Studios.
Yep.
So I was like, is that Millennium? I was so confused on that.
He had a lease agreement within Millennium Studios, but there was an overall owner of the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Bubba.
But Bonnie can answer that question too.
Okay.
If you ask her, who was the person that owned it?
She's my last person I have to call.
Okay,
I've got
good,
Shelley
good.
Regal and Marla Mitchell.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I got to call people.
I grew up here. Grew up Cal Heights. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That weekend, I was telling, and she's heard this for the fourth time, but that weekend, I had goosebumps.
Oh yeah.
I'm going like, oh my God, for Shreveport,
Yeah. It's like you jump in a time machine and you see, how things were once upon a time. Yeah.
Look at her.
Oh yeah. It was like that weekend was like you jump in a time machine and you see how things were once upon a time, and you understand this is just the beginning this time. This isn't an end state, or we're not in stable operations now. This is the beginning, and this thing can be so much bigger.
Did you get to go to anything?
Of the weekend? No, I didn't. I stayed out of the way. I told you, people think that I don't live here because I don't go to as many public appearances and things of that nature. I do travel a lot, but yeah, I just stay out of the limelight, and I let people enjoy it that want to be a part of it and all of that. I was in the background cheering. I'm that person in the back of the audience that's clapping very, very loudly, but I don't need to be on stage. That's not, I can still contribute to my community, not being in the middle of everything.
Where do you see the city going from here?
I see the city going up from here, and I pray that it continues to go up. I see the city continuing to grow. I see the city really coming together in a meaningful way that we haven't seen in years, because we have a vision, a mission, and something to come together around. So I see the city, I'm very excited about our future. I am.
Perfect. Yay.
Good.
That was good. I didn't buy tickets either, and then when I started looking at all that,